Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is 903 Sports. I am your host, Cameron Brown, joined by the boys, Hunter Shattuck and Jeffrey Yeager. Jeff, welcome back to the pod, my friend. We've got a lot to talk about today. College football playoff rankings just came out. We'll get into that. I have a lot to say about that. I'm not very happy with how that just came out. USA Soccer advances to the knockout stage, taking down Iran 1-0 today. Undefeated USA, might I add, in the World Cup so far. We take on the Netherlands at 9 o'clock Central Time on Saturday. We can talk a little NFL. Dallas Cowboys got a big Thanksgiving win against division rival, the New York Giants. Philadelphia Eagles continue to roll. And what else? That's about it, right? Talk a little NFL. College,
the Vikings back on the win, back Vikings on the W train.
The Jets have found their quarterback in
Hey, how about Mike White, man?
Mike White's a dog.
Did you see that meme of Zach Wilson with his hood on looking like evil Anakin Skywalker?
He looked mad. Yeah, Zach Wilson, he's done. But let me just start with this. Let me just get this off my chest real quick. Playoff committee came out. Your top fours, I'm fine with. It's Georgia 1, Michigan 2, TCU 3, USC 4. That's what I had. No problem. Ohio State's 5. I don't think Ohio State is an elite football team. I've called them frauds for the last month and a half. But I really can't complain about them being 5. They're 11-1. Tennessee and Alabama are 10-2 behind them. Where I get angry is Alabama is number 6 at 10-2, and Tennessee is number 7 at 10-2. Same record, same conference. Yeager, let me ask you a question. Who won that game between Tennessee and Alabama?
The Tennessee Volunteers did.
Tennessee beat Alabama. Was it home? Was it a great game? Walk-off field goal? Whatever. Doesn't matter. They won the game head-to-head. They have the head-to-head victory. So now if this was an 8-4 Tennessee and a 10-2 Bama, or 9-3, whatever, they have the same record. Tennessee beat them head-to-head. Can anybody tell me what Alabama's best win of the season is? For point number 2, this argument. Texas, who is 8-4 in their place week 2.
Hey, they're ranked though.
They're ranked at 20-21. Decent team. 20. And then their next best win is Ole Miss, who just fell out of the rankings, I believe. That's their next best win. They lost to Tennessee, they lost to LSU, and people can say, well, they lost on what is it? A last second play. It was last second play. They also beat Texas, beat A&M, and beat Ole Miss on last second plays. That Bama team could be 7-5 right now.
They could be undefeated. They could be 7-5.
No doubt about it. So you can say that all you want. Well, they were close losses last second. They had last second wins as well. They don't have any good wins. There's no argument to put them ahead of Tennessee. You can say, yeah, Hendon Hooker's hurt. That to me, that shouldn't base in your rankings. It's the end of the season. It should be resume based for how you did as a whole for the season. Look, Tennessee got their butt whooped last week. They don't deserve to get in the playoff. They blew it. Oh, well, it happens. The South Carolina team turns out they're not a bad team. They're number 19 in the country. So that loss doesn't look quite as bad anymore, which to me puts Tennessee on the level playing field. And now if that South Carolina team was 4-8, 5-7, like LSU just lost to A&M, then yeah, I could be okay. That's a horrible loss. But on the road at night to a top 20 team, it's not a good loss. Tennessee should have won that game, no doubt about it. They wrecked their season by losing that game. But it's not just a casualty you lost to A&M like LSU just did. So I don't know. I'm upset with that. The committee, they're so inconsistent. They put Florida State ahead of LSU because they have the head-to-head win, but didn't do the same thing for Tennessee and Alabama. They're always going to favor the big brand in Ohio State and Bama because if chaos happens, let's say TCU goes out and loses by 45 on Saturday. Let's say USC loses to Utah. Both of them are out, and look who's coming in. Ohio State and Alabama. You watch. That my prediction for how this is going to work out. I think USC takes care of business and beats Utah. I think TCU is going to get beat by Kansas State, and Ohio State's going to jump them.
No.
Ohio State's going to jump them and do exactly what they did in 2014 and pass them again after Conference Championship weekend, which would be a disaster to TCU. And that's one other thing I just want to get off my chest real quick. Is so let's say USC or TCU lose this weekend, they're getting punished for being rewarded to play in your conference championship game while Tennessee, Alabama, and Ohio State are at home watching the game. So TCU loses, they would be punished for earning your chance to play in the Big 12 championship. That's not fair whatsoever. Ohio State just blew their chance. They got embarrassed at home by Michigan on Saturday by 21 in their own building. This doesn't make sense. There's too much. There's too much going on here.
The issue
I'll
is
let you
with
go
that
on.
is that conferences are split divisionally, and we've talked about this with the SEC. But how Purdue is playing in the Big Ten championship is just ridiculous. When Ohio State is the number 5 ranked team in the country, sitting at home, the Big 12 does it right. You take the 2 best teams with the best record through the regular season, and they play each other for the championship. That's how you know you get the 2 best teams. And that way you
Correct.
don't have a situation where you've got Purdue, or it was looking like it was going to be Illinois for a while, or a couple of years ago it was Northwestern playing against the winner of Ohio State, Michigan. It needs to be the 2 best teams playing each other in the conference championship game.
If it was that way, it would be Michigan, Ohio State, and Georgia versus Tennessee this weekend instead of Georgia, LSU, and Ohio or Michigan and Purdue.
Yeah.
Well, I think that also the thing there is you give Ohio State a chance to redeem themselves, because if they come in and they beat Michigan in the conference championship, say it was just the 2 best records, right? Then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, who do we, they both are 11-1 at that point, or whatever, 10-1 or whatever it might be. And so then you're like, okay, they get a chance to win themselves proactively back into the playoff instead of getting to just sit around and see if TCU or USC loses.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think the playoff needs to expand, in my opinion. I don't
100%.
I don't know. I know you're not a big on the expansion, but this seems like a great year for it. Georgia's really good, but they really haven't been tested outside of Tennessee. And they'll get a decent test against LSU this weekend. But I don't know.
Well,
It's like it's Georgia,
to be
Michigan,
clear,
everybody else.
To be clear, I do want the college football playoff to expand. I've noted postseason hater over here, but
Noted.
The football playoff needs to expand. 4 teams isn't enough when it's 32 team league or something.
131 or 32. Yeah.
Yeah. 4 teams is ridiculous.
It's just not enough.
Well, not only that, but when you have really, it's getting to the point where every year you have 6-7 teams that have the legitimate argument of getting in, or hey, not just based on record, but on power ranking. Hey, because you could go ahead and say Tennessee should be 5 in power ranking, to be totally honest. I think overall they're a better team than Ohio State, and they obviously are a better team than Alabama. And so you've got the legitimate argument. I think it should be 8 teams.
I'm going to push back on that a little bit, and I'm going to make an enemy here, Cameron. But you mentioned the Hendon Hooker injury, and I think that does matter with rankings. Now, I haven't given this a whole lot of thought, but I'm just my instinct is, if you're trying to put the 4 best teams into a playoff, I think that's right. You got the 4 best teams who are going to play the best in the playoff, right? Like the best team as currently constructed in the playoff. Then you should take into account who is currently playing and active on the roster. It was it Sam Darnold who came in and played for USC a few years back? They lost the first 2 games of the season. I think it was Darnold that came in and they went on a tear.
Yep.
And the committee talked about how they considered that, hey, you know what, this is a different team with Darnold and playing quarterback. And I think it matters that Hooker's not playing quarterback. I think that's probably why Tennessee's behind Alabama, is because as currently constructed, Tennessee's not a better football team than Alabama. They're just not.
Well, I mean, you could say the same thing with Caleb Williams when he came in for Rattler versus Texas.
Mm-hmm.
When Rattler got hurt, Caleb Williams came in. I remember the moment because it was so irritating. Is they had a 4th and 2 or something like that, and they just did a QB sneak, and they just didn't tackle Caleb Williams, and he took it 56 yards to the house 20 seconds before that.
So what's your point in that? What are you trying to say?
My point is, I think you have no idea whether Hendon Hooker's backup, how he's going to influence the team. Now, granted, he might be some, true freshman that's just going to be scared for his life out there. I don't actually know who the backup is, but you never know how they're going to play. So I don't think you should base current injuries to the rankings. You should take.
I think it's different if a dude is out for the season, like Hooker is. It might be different if hey, he sprained his ankle, could be out 3 weeks. That might be different. But I think if it's a season-ending injury, it's a totally different roster.
I think if we went out against Vandy this weekend and beat them 24-17, then I would agree. But we beat them. They beat them 56-0. This is a Vandy team that was playing for bowl eligibility, and everybody on TV said, "Hey, Tennessee better watch out for Vandy." and we went and mopped the floor with them 56-0. So they made a statement. Joe Milton played fine. I think Tennessee should be ahead of Alabama, period. Now,
If
I
they
know
played tomorrow, neutral site, who's favored?
I just saw a tweet that said Vegas would have Tennessee as a 1-point favorite.
Who
As
tweeted
well.
that?
I saw it. I'm telling you. I'll find the
Who
source.
tweeted it?
I'll find it.
Was
I'll-
was it a Tennessee fan?
base
Nope.
101.
Nope. It was a some Vegas sports book.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
-1.
Yeah, it was gbospecial.com. That's what it was.
I'm
That's
telling
right.
you right now.
It was the Skeezers Palace LLC.
I would not be afraid to play Alabama. And one more thought, and we'll move on past Tennessee on the committee, is they do not take care of the mid-major teams whatsoever. My
Correct.
Roadrunners UTSA are 10-2. They had a great year, and they went out and scheduled teams. They played Texas and Houston, and they gave Texas a fist, and Texas pulled away late.
Yes.
They lost to Houston in double overtime. Finished 10-2, probably win their conference championship this weekend, and they're not ranked. And the committee keeps ranking these 8-4 average Mississippi State and NC State teams, and that's not right. It's not right to me. Reward the teams that are going out and winning
Because
on a weekly
For those
basis.
teams, it means something.
Yes.
Like it doesn't mean nothing for Texas to be ranked 20. Those
No.
players at UT don't care about seeing a 20 next to Texas. But
Anytime Texas wins a game, they're immediately ranked right after.
Mhm.
Immediately.
Hey, you don't have to win me over on that.
Jeff?
I 100% agree.
I mean, look,
Lovely.
if I were to rank the 25 best football teams in college football right now, Texas would be right on the fringe at 25. It's just they rank them. They get their big game on TV as a ranked team. They lose. They go back down. They beat Kansas. And here they are right back again. Texas top 25. And there's no respect for the Coastal Carolinas, UTSAs, and these mid-majors who win 10 games every year and they don't get ranked. I don't think
Yep,
that's right.
Correct. On
So-
a tangent note, speaking of Houston, Cougars ranked #1 in college basketball.
Yep.
Let's go,
There's
baby.
Good
going to be
team.
a problem this year in hoops, Jeff.
Hey, Baylor
No.
Hoops, big week this week. We got at Marquette tonight and then Gonzaga neutral site in the state of Washington. So it's basically a Gonzaga home game on Friday night.
Wow. And the Zags, very vulnerable, got smoked.
Very
up
vulnerable.
Saturday night.
Very
My
vulnerable.
Tennessee Volunteers hoops put a whipping on Kansas Jayhawks and the Bahamas to win that championship 64-50. Just of note, in case nobody saw that. So
I didn't. I didn't
I
see
got
that.
something I want to get
actually.
off my chest. Can I get something off my chest? Is that all right?
yes.
with you
Oh,
guys?
is this your
Absolutely.
TCU rant?
I've about had it with people saying that TCU is a really good football team. Do they
Time
deserve
out.
to get?
Before you get going, you already noted Baylor alumni. That is
Yeah, no.
not-
This
fan
is
of problem.
100% biased. This
Okay.
is 100%
Sure.
biased. Just so we're clear, this is coming from a biased place. However, after they got away with that win in Waco, which Baylor's not a good football team.
no.
Baylor's not a good football team. They should have beat Baylor by significantly more points than that if TCU is this great team like everybody says they are. They have tons of grit. They play really hard. They're just flat out not all that good. And people say, oh, but they win every game. They win every game. And because they do win every game, if they beat Kansas State, they 100% deserve to get in the playoff because it's a resume-based system at this point. And you go 12-0 in the Big 12, 13-0, whatever it be, you deserve to get in. However, here are their best wins. Tell me which one of these wins you deem quality. Oklahoma at home. Yes or no? Quality or not?
At the time, yes. Now,
Nope.
no.
At Kansas.
At the time, yes. Now, no.
Oklahoma State at home.
That was a huge win at the time. Now,
At the
no.
time. Yeah, but just like you talked about at South Carolina, it turns out South Carolina's a pretty good football team. So
Right.
it turns out Kansas kind of sucks. Turns out Oklahoma State kind of sucks. Turns out Oklahoma really sucks.
Yeah, I better
Okay.
say there's no kind about Oklahoma. They're terrible.
How about this? Kansas State at home. That's a good win.
That's a good
Anytime
win.
you beat that's a solid win. Not a
They were
great
also
win.
down 21 in that game.
They got grit, man. They ooze grit. Just not a great football team.
12 out
Um,
of 10 on the scale, baby.
When it, but that's a solid win. That's not a Tennessee over Alabama win, but you can't get those wins in the Big 12.
Hey,
Okay,
Kansas
that's
State's
fine.
ranked number 10 right now. And
Yeah.
they're going to get it again next week or this weekend.
Yeah. At Texas. Good win, bad win.
The way they're ranked
good.
right now, I mean, yeah, and that was a good win at the time and now. That's a
It's
good
okay.
win.
It's okay.
I think
It's a
that's a
great
good
win.
win.
It's a good
I
win.
think that's a good win for the reason that that's like the little brother going in and beating the big brother is what that kind
Anytime
of
you
felt
beat
like.
somebody in their place that's ranked, that's a good win, in my opinion.
All right, then
Yes.
at Baylor. I've already touched it. That's not a good win.
Not a good win. Should have lost
Okay.
that game. If Dave Aranda could coach football, that would be a loss.
I've been, how long have I been saying that, Bob?
You're on the train, and I'm with you now.
So
Didn't
I
they
guess
hit a
my-
field goal at the buzzer to win by
I don't
two?
want to talk about it.
It was a bad day for Hunter.
I don't want to talk about it. But I guess what I'm saying is people are saying, oh, they've got 5 ranked wins, 5 ranked wins. How many of those wins that I just read off to you are quality wins? Maybe 2. For sure, Kansas State and potentially Texas. So I don't want to hear about it.
But you could say the same thing about Michigan.
Okay, say it.
Who do
I'm
they
fine
play
with
in the
saying
Big
it.
Ten?
That
Who
just
do
because
they
you
play
can
in the
say-
Big Ten beside
Listen,
Ohio
just
State?
because you can say it about Michigan doesn't mean it's not true about TCU. I mean, I think first of all, Michigan still wins games by double-digit points. TCU beat Iowa State last week by a crap load, and I think that was their first blowout win of the season. So it's
That
not
was
like
the performance Saturday night.
they needed it. They needed it.
Bad.
But I just don't think TCU is actually a good football team. I think they're a gritty football team. I would say they're well coached, but they tried to lose the Baylor game. That was the worst coaching I've ever seen in my life. So
I don't think TCU's beating Kansas State. I've got a real good feeling Kansas State.
I agree. I don't think they are either. I think they've played with fire too much, and you can only do that for so long in college football.
Right.
So are they a good team? Yes. Are they one of the best with one of the best 4 teams in the country? No. But they have one of the best 4 resumes. So if they take care of business against Kansas State, they get in. But I've about had it with, but the ranked wins. Those teams are garbage now. So don't give me, you beat Oklahoma when they were still overrated because they're University of Oklahoma.
I will say this. I'll give you Oklahoma and I'll give you Kansas. That Oklahoma State win was huge because that Oklahoma State team was a top 10 team. They've fallen apart with injuries.
They were never a top 10. They were incorrectly ranked in the top 10.
I don't think that's necessarily true.
Wow.
They're garbage. They're
Now
terrible.
I mean,
But
that's the thing is that's all hindsight. Like hindsight's 2020.
Okay.
But at the time when they were ranked in the top 10, would you have
that was
said,
a
hey, they're not
huge
deserving?
game to talk about at that
Listen.
time. Double overtime, big game.
We've covered that Baylor's not a good football team today.
Correct.
We've been through that. BYU beat Baylor when Baylor was ranked number 9. Did they beat the ninth best team in the country?
That night
No.
they did.
Absolutely not.
They
Under
did.
no circumstances is Baylor a top 10 team in the country. Just
They
because they
were.
were incorrectly ranked in the top 10 does not mean BYU should be viewed as having a top 10 win.
So
But
what are you getting at? You're saying TCU's a load of cap?
I'm saying they're a good team. They're not a great team. And
You're on the frogs.
And what makes them good is not the fact that they have all these ranked wins. That's baloney. I mean, just beating a bunch of good teams who are overrated doesn't make you a good team.
I will say this: there are no great teams this year outside of Georgia, and Michigan might be great.
They're good plus.
Everybody else from 3 to
I agree with Hunter. I
14.
think Michigan is good plus.
they're
Georgia is for real. They
It's
look
Georgia,
like the Bama. They look like the Bama of old.
It's Georgia, maybe Michigan, and then there's like 10 good football teams right after
Yep.
that, from TCU to Washington. Then
Yep.
any of those teams could beat anybody on any given night. And that's true. So, all right,
Agreed.
let's move on to college football. Hunter, you
Hey,
got
how about Washington beating Oregon? Or Oregon State beating Oregon?
the Beavers have grit. Last thing we'll say.
That
about
was
college football.
That was
I-
crazy.
Who's been on the Beav train all year long? Me.
Oh, did you?
My
They
Beavers.
scored between the time of 13 minutes and 8 minutes left in the fourth. The Beavers scored 21 points.
They
Great.
Beavs going 9-3, being number 15 in the country. That's a hell of a season for Oregon State football. Hell of a season.
Not only that,
Agreed.
who was it?
They had USMNT.
Ohio State collapsed. I got to say this. I don't know if y'all know this or if you looked, but Ohio State lost the second half 28-3. I
They
mean,
got
what
killed
happened?
in the second half. Got
What
killed.
happened?
They just fell apart.
It was in Columbus. I mean, they just
Yeah, it was at home. They
It's
got
crazy.
embarrassed. Michigan has caught up to Ohio State. The Big Ten runs through Michigan now, and it
Mhm.
started last year. And I told Trent Cutt all week long, I wish they were on the pod. I told him, Michigan's going to win this game. And
Oh,
they
yeah.
said, oh, you're an idiot. They're not. They're no. Michigan I got to give it to Harbaugh. After middle 2020, when they were terrible in the COVID year, I was all about Harbaugh out. Guy can't coach. Guy's a dang good football coach because he's got Michigan on the upward trajectory quickly.
I tell you, bro, I mean, we've seen it a million times. Sometimes that first win is the hardest one. And then after you get that monkey off your back, it's like you can do it over and over and over again.
You go beat Ohio State in their building, that's saying something. And they mopped the floor with them, too. That was very impressive by Michigan in the second half on Saturday. So, all right, let's move off football. Let's talk a little soccer. Hunter, you got something on your shirt there. What is that?
Yeah, that's 3 letters. I don't know if you can see them. It's
USA.
That's right.
USA. How about this soccer team, boys?
That's right.
Disappointment. Drew against Wales. Much better team. I thought we were the much better team in that game. Drew against England. I thought we looked like the better team in that game. Really thought we had a chance to score a goal and steal it, but that was an impressive performance. And then held on for dear life in the second half, the last 20 minutes, and beat Iran 1-0 to move on. What did we say 8 months ago, Hunter? What was our goal for USA in this tournament? What was the goal?
The expectation was get out of the group.
And did we do that?
We have done it.
We have done it. The rest out of the group. I'm still want us to go and win as many games as we can and see how far we can take this thing. But the rest is cake. The goal was met. Now let's see what else we can do. Let's see how far we can push our guys. Pulisic's hurt. I really hope he can play this week. Sargent looked like that. Did not look like a kind of serious, that knee injury. That looked bad. And our guys.
Anytime you hyperextend that knee, something tweaks.
I think they're saying it's an ankle, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I think
his
so.
Leg did something funny when it went down.
Yes.
I said, that's not good. That's serious. But we were gassed in that game.
Sargent was up walking around after the game, though, so that's good.
Okay,
Hey, I'll tell you who impressed Aronson.
My guy, Brendan Aronson, Leeds GOAT.
He came in, his touch looked good. I mean,
he's a good player.
He looked like a quality football player.
He is.
But before
soccer, it's called soccer now.
It's called soccer now. Don't let the USA take over soccer. Don't let us be great at something else.
Bro, could you imagine if soccer was our number one sport?
Oh man.
You got Saquon and LeBron and LaDainian Tomlinson, and you got Calvin Johnson in the goal playing keeper.
Nobody can touch Matt Turner.
Yeah, Matt Turner, GOAT.
Let's talk about the guys who actually play on the team, Jaeger. Let's talk about the guys who actually play.
Hey, Matt Turner, I'm going to say this. He's got that dog in him. He's the real deal. I tell you what, but I did think that last one that went in between his legs, I was like, I don't know how that didn't have enough force to keep going. Just the heavens and the gravity of the earth did us a solid. I was like, that is a blessing from on high. And it's payback.
Could y'all imagine if that ball would have went in the 98th minute and Iran?
I was whenever they were looking at that potential penalty in the 98th minute.
I thought for sure they were going to call it.
Yep.
It would have been a horrible call. Would have been a horrible call.
But the refs have been sus all World Cup.
The referee was good against England. He let them play consistently, and the referee was good today. The referee against Wales was garbage.
Yeah.
But I thought the referee did a good job today and a good job against England. I don't know what you thought, Hunter, but I thought he was fine the last two matches. Never noticed.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, that's a good sign, right? You don't really notice too much.
Yeah, I didn't notice anything. He let him play against England. There were some things I thought was a bit much, but if you're going to call it both ways, totally fine with that. It's like basketball. If you're going to let it be rough, call it both ways. And man, what a game, though. I'm telling you, the last 25 minutes of that game, I was sweating because Iran was on the attack. Berhalter tried to do the outsmart everybody in some of the dumbest decisions I've ever seen in my life. Berhalter, I don't care if we win the World Cup. Berhalter, out. We can win the World Cup by 7. Get him out of here. Guy's a bozo, man.
I want to know what
Gio Reyna, free Gio Reyna.
I want to know what y'all think because I'm deep in the weeds on this team. I'm a sicko.
You're a lot more advanced than we are.
So I want to know what y'all think because I think if soccer's ever going to really take off, the fans like the non-sickos like me are going to have to pick it up and enjoy watching it. So I mean, what do y'all think? What do y'all think of the team? What do y'all think of the games? Is it fun to watch? Who catches your eye?
It's the I'll tell you who caught my eye today, Hunter, and that's Yunus Musa. That guy's a ball player. He was everywhere today. he was completely gassed. I mean, he had to be on noodle legs the last 7 minutes because he was everywhere.
He never plays 90 minutes, not even for his club. He always
That
gets
was
subbed
awesome.
out.
I will say
So the
this:
fact that he stayed in was impressive.
one thought I have is Weston McKinney's got to find a way to play more than 60 minutes. We need him on the
Well,
field.
he's still nursing that injury,
Yeah,
which is a bummer.
when he came off, you noticed it. You could tell when we brought in
Yeah.
Shaq Moore, and then we brought in Walker. Did a good job.
Well, Kellen Acosta was the sub for Weston.
Costa was a sub
And
for Weston.
I don't want to get
I'm not in a
too into the weeds, but that's my biggest gripe on Berhalter is he when you're just kind of talking with your buddies about like, oh, we could put a decent team together. You could do this and I could do this, and you're tall, so you can play this position, and you kind of fit it all together and stuff. Well, that's how Berhalter tries to coach soccer. Like in his mind, Kellen Acosta is a defensive midfielder. And so since you're trying to see out the game, you put in your more defensive option to play as the central midfielder, which is what Weston does. But the reality of it is Gio Reyna can play that position. He's a more attacking minded midfielder, but he's just straight up a better soccer player than Kellen Acosta. Like Berhalter gets so caught up into these roles that he thinks these players can play that he forgets about the fact that some guys are just flat out better at the sport than others. You know what I mean?
So,
and go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I don't want to cut you off, but at this point, it's obvious there's a rift between Gio and Berhalter. It's the only thing that makes sense.
I think the most likely scenario is Gio's hurt, and Berhalter doesn't want to say it because he wants teams to have to prepare for Gio. And I say that like the guys like Pat Mahomes. I mean, he should be in our 11, but he's not Messi. But he's definitely he provides
he's
something
better than
that
Shaq Moore. I can tell you that.
Nobody else on the team does what Gio does, and so he would change. He changes the way teams have to prepare for the U.S. And so I bet Berhalter's just not saying, "Hey, the dude's hurt." That's my guess. It's the only thing that makes sense. I think Berhalter's not a good coach. I don't think he evaluates talent all that great. But anybody with eyes can see that Gio Reyna's deserving to be out there.
No doubt. He's got to play against Netherlands. I mean, as a sub, something. He's got to come in.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And we struggled at the end of the game today. I mean, y'all saw it.
Badly.
Iran had a lot of the ball. Like that, we couldn't hold on the ball, and we didn't want to. But some of that was the substitutions. We took out Tim Weah, put in Walker Zimmerman, who's a center back. Which I don't have a problem with that, I guess, because we did need defending, and Zimmerman did great.
He won a lot of headers coming home.
Sure
he
did.
did great. But you know what helps hold on to the ball is somebody who can take it. Like Musa does this. Musa gets the ball in midfield. You don't take it from Yunus Musa. He just holds on to the ball. And Gio does the same thing. He can dribble and hold on to the ball like Yunus can. And so I really think somebody like him coming on would have helped settle the game, help us hold on to possession. And kind of like you do in football, it's like the soccer equivalent of just running the ball to milk the clock is just passing it around and not letting the other team take it. And I think Gio would have been a much better sub than Kellen, because Kellen Acosta is just not a talented soccer player. He plays decent defense. He's got some grit. He just doesn't have a whole lot of skill. And so I think that's one thing Berhalter got wrong.
I think the most impressive thing about this team is our midfield. Our midfield is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal today.
Unreal.
Tyler Adams has been the best player on the field in almost every game he's played so far.
Yeah, I'd say every game.
He's been outstanding, and he's playing out of his mind right now. He could make himself a lot of money pretty quickly. Yep. That guy's awesome.
Yeah. And that's the thing is our midfield can keep us in games. Like the way that, U.S. teams in years past, they would just kind of not really have a whole lot of talent, have to sit back, do to us or do to other teams what Wales did to us, just kind of sit off and hope to not get scored on. But our midfield can hang with anybody. They can take the ball from people and hold on to the ball and establish some sort of a possession, which has never been the case for the U.S. But you saw it against England. I mean, yeah, England had a little bit more of the ball, but I mean, we straight up played with them, and you're not really going to find a more talented team than England anyway. So I think we can hang with anybody.
So let me ask you this: what are our odds on Saturday? Vegas has us at plus 175 underdog Saturday against the Netherlands. What are our chances on Saturday?
That sounds about right. I might say a little bit better than that. I still think, you talk about a team as being better than the sum of their parts. You heard that expression?
Oh yeah.
That's our team. Most of our guys play better for the national team than they do for their club teams. Tyler Adams and Brendan Arrington are probably the exception because they do everything they do for the national team, but for Leeds,
That's right. United
Pulisic's been playing terrible at Chelsea. Tim Weah barely plays for Lille. He barely gets off the bench. And when he does, he's not really all that effective. He's incredible for the national team.
He's so fast, man.
You can't take him off the field. That's the thing is I want Gio to start, but I mean, they're not going to bench Christian Pulisic, even though he would be the one to bench. I think Weah is more important to the team than Pulisic, but you can't bench Christian Pulisic. I mean, it would kill the narrative, right? Like that's the whole thing. And you're not benching Weah. So I'm fine with using Reyna as a sub, but you got to just use him as a sub.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like I'm complaining a lot. And I've got one more gripe with Berhalter, but I'm stoked about how this team has played.
Phenomenal day, man.
It's crazy, especially as poorly as they played over the summer and then in the September friendlies, they looked horrible. And to come out in the World Cup and to play with as much, fight and grit as they have has been awesome. And the stereotype for U.S. soccer is like, oh, well, they've got grit and they'll compete, but they're not really all that talented. I think we've shown that our guys have some skill, which is new.
We're a lot closer to being an elite soccer program than people realize.
Yeah.
And they're going to start realizing over the next couple of years. One thought, we thought it was all disastrous when did we lose to Saudi and tie to Japan, or we tie both?
Other way around, lost to Japan, tied the Saudis.
Turns out those two teams aren't that bad. Turns out.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but I'm proud of them because, I mean, how long we've been following this? We've been following this team for years, but we bought in qualifying 2020.
It was what got me was the Nations League against Mexico.
Yes.
That was the extra time, and then Pulisic made that penalty in like the 115th minute.
Yes.
That's what won me over.
And we've followed them ever since, and it led up to this moment today.
They
got to win and go to the knockout
and
stage.
They came through.
And that's awesome. And like I said, the rest is cake. Look, I want to beat Netherlands on Saturday, no doubt, and I'm going to be crushed if we lose. But I'm proud of them. They did what they were supposed to do. That was get out of the group. And it was a gritty group. Iran and Wales, not
tough
phenomenal teams, but they're tough teams to play. Now, Iran hit us with everything they had today. And they almost stole a goal late and were knocked us out.
I got 2 points. One negative, one positive. I'll go negative first. And Jaeger, I want to hear what you have to say on this. So here's the negative. I really hated the sub that Berhalter made. What was it? The 82nd minute. That's when he put on Zimmerman and Shaq Moore. And I think Shaq Moore offers nothing offensively. He was fine defensively. He is a total liability on offense. He can't hold on to the soccer ball. No. And Zimmerman really only offers defensive work. Now, Zimmerman's excellent on defense, which that's why I didn't mind him coming on. But that was the 82nd minute, and then there were 9 added minutes. So there was, 17 minutes of soccer left. Iran could have easily scored. And if they had scored, we needed a goal, and our only 2 attackers, because remember, Kellen Acosta was on in midfield instead of Gio Reyna, our only 2 attackers were Haji Wright and Brendan Aronson.
Yeah.
With a bunch of defenders. And there's no way that we could have come back and gotten a goal. So Greg was putting all of his eggs in the basket of not letting Iran score. And they almost did on a couple of occasions. So, and I would argue that they almost scored because they got so many chances because we couldn't hold on to the soccer ball because we just had a bunch of defenders.
If they scored in the 83rd, we lose. The game's over.
Yeah. Yes, because we didn't have anybody who could put the ball in the net. But fortunately, that didn't happen. The subs worked, defense held, and all sins are forgiven. But I think in a vacuum, that's a bad coaching decision. And frankly, all of the subs were bad, in my opinion. But hey, the job was to win.
I thought Walker did a good job. Yeah, I'll let you jump in here.
Yeah, I mean, when you're watching the game, Jaeger, like, again, I'm way too into the weeds with this stuff.
I thought the biggest thing that stood out to me is coming home is our guys would get a ball that was up in the air and they would try and touch it to bring it down themselves, and they just couldn't. It would come off and they'd kick it and be 12 feet away. Like, their touch was awful. So we kept giving Iran a bunch of possession time and a bunch of possessions where they could set something up. And so I don't think the defensive scheme was like as bad as it looked. I think it was more like, hey, if we could have brought the ball in and had 3, 4, 5 decent offensive possessions, it wouldn't have put so much pressure on ourselves.
Yeah, that's
what I'm saying.
exactly.
Is it? I was literally sitting there watching the game. I'm like, look, if these guys literally can't bring it into their bodies and keep it at their feet or pass to someone, then instead of kicking it 12 feet to the side, they should literally just boot it the opposite way as far as they can.
Mhm.
Because if
Yeah.
you just hit it 12 feet away, then it's at midfield and Iran runs for the goal again. I was like, dude, if you can't do that, just get the ball and kick it as far away as possible and make Iran keep running back and forth.
Yep, I agree. And that goes back to what I said about we took all of our skilled players. Pulisic had to go out injured. We subbed off Tim
Mhm.
Weah. Weston McKennie
Mhm.
is our most skilled midfielder as far as,
Mhm.
connecting passes and holding onto the ball. Eunice is a better
Wow.
dribbler than Weston, but Weston will, combine 1-2 and hold on to the ball.
I will
And
say I
so
didn't hate the Zimmerman sub because
no, you're
he
right.
coming
That's the
home,
one that
he
I
made
actually liked.
so many plays,
He's a
so
big
That's what
many
he
just
does.
solid plays for us.
He's a two-time MLS defender of the year, and MLS gets a lot of crap for not being that great, and it's not a high quality of soccer, but he is a very
Mhm.
good defender. So I actually like that plan. I like Cameron Carter-Vickers in over Zimmerman off the start, and then if we get a lead, put Zimmerman and make it a back three, because just put Zimmerman in like a free safety role where if a long ball comes in, he just heads it out.
Yeah, so many of those long balls kept coming in for Iran's prayers, and Zimmerman just headed right back out to
Yeah.
midfield. Had to
Yeah, he
reach.
just doesn't miss. He doesn't lose those.
Yeah, he was so much bigger than everybody else out there.
Yeah.
Before we move on, I want to say one thing. I'm extreme, and we saw it against England. That was test one. I'm really excited to see us play against another national power in the Netherlands this weekend and see how we stack up with the big boys. Because Iran and Wales, gritty teams, that's one thing. We're going to knockout stages, you're playing against the best of the best. And Netherlands is what, top 7 in the world, top 8, maybe. What are
8,
they?
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I mean they're a good team, and they pulled. I think they had a draw and 2 wins.
Yes.
I believe. Good
Mhm.
team, good start for them. I'm excited to watch this play Saturday. See how we stack up.
Yeah.
I really hope Pulisic plays. We really need him. We need him out there. It's not the end of the world. Pulisic's not out there, like Hunter said. Probably Gio will play in his place. I would assume, maybe.
It'll be Brendan.
Brendan will play.
Yeah, just because.
Netherlands, I checked this earlier. Netherlands, they beat Qatar 2-0 and they beat Senegal 2-0 and they drew with Ecuador 1-1.
But that Senegal game was 2-0 and they scored very late. It was
Yeah,
a
very,
pretty
very.
even game. The Netherlands are beatable. I mean, they're very, very beatable. They're a better team than we are. If we played them 10 times, they'd win more than we would win. But it's not like
Right.
we're playing Brazil. I mean, this is not a game that we should just hold on for dear life. Like, I think we're going to go out and play real soccer against them. And I mean, I'm already thinking this. Just imagine Saturday morning, I'm going to be saying we're going to win 3-0. I mean, I think we're going to win. I really do. I think there's something special going on with this team.
Could you imagine if we got to the quarters?
If Argentina wins their group and then they win their first knockout game, we would play Argentina in the quarters. And that might be a problem.
Who would they? I don't know. They lost to Saudi. Who would they play in the first round if they get through?
I don't remember. I don't know off the top of my head, but the bracket's fun to play around with.
They play Poland tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's not an easy game.
They could still not make it out of their group if Mexico wins and Poland wins. So if Mexico beats Saudi Arabia and then Poland beats Argentina, Argentina doesn't get out of their group.
Okay, so we would play. Let's just say we beat Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
The 1 seed from that group would be below us there.
If assuming the 1 seed from that group wins their first round game,
right? Mm-hmm. Which if Argentina, it's not Argentina, it would be Poland.
Yeah, and they won't make it out of round 16. Poland's not good.
I was hoping it would be Mexico. Could you imagine that? Mexico versus USA in the quarters.
The U.S. has 1 knockout round win ever. 1. It's against Mexico.
We only have 1. I did not know that.
Yeah.
No, they came in third in like 1950.
There were 4 knockout teams. That's it. So you make it out of the group, you're straight into the semis. So you didn't have to win a knockout game to get there.
If Chris Wondolowski wasn't the worst soccer player in United States history, he was in 2014. But that's a story for another day.
But yeah, U.S. big game on Saturday morning.
Big game. Can't wait. So any closing thoughts on USA? And we'll talk about the Cowboys and close up.
Well, man, I want to say,
I'll tell you, nothing gives me chills. Nothing gives me chills like listening to the national anthem.
That's right.
Oh, right before we play, man, I would have run through a brick wall for this team.
Well, I feel like I was too negative. I talked about some mishaps from Berhalter. I can't overstate how impressive this team has been. I mean, these are guys who didn't even play in the last World Cup cycle. I mean, there's no telling. Like, yeah, I have high hopes for the game against the Netherlands, and then who knows after that. But man, what we're seeing from this team, from this group of guys, is only the beginning. It's only the beginning.
Yeah, it's awesome. And everyone's so young. We're the second youngest team in the World Cup, third youngest.
The second youngest, but of the guys that contribute, were unbelievably young, like so much younger. Like Ghana's the youngest because they brought 2 backup 19-year-old goalkeepers.
Yeah. I've tried to keep expectations low with this team. I wanted to get out of the group, and that's it. I really, in my heart, believe in 2026, we will be among the favorites to win that World Cup, top 7 favorites in that World Cup. No doubt about it.
We would be a team like the Dutch, like the Netherlands, because the Netherlands are not Brazil. They're not France. We'll never be that.
Never.
As long as the NFL exists, the United States will never be France or Brazil.
No, there's no chance.
But we could end up being a team like the Netherlands, maybe in that next tier down, where if they play well, they could beat anybody and hang with anybody.
Yep. And it's at home on our turf. Our guys will be pretty much in their prime at that point. Right on the cusp of their prime. I mean,
and who knows?
Stars align for the 2026 World Cup, just like it aligns for the 2026 Rags World Series, right, Hunter?
Hey, that'll be their second one.
2026 can be a good year.
Good year. Hey, that's a 250th anniversary of this great nation.
Wow. The signs.
Yo, that's crazy.
I'm proud of the guys, man. Today was awesome.
Yeah.
That was not an easy thing to do, to go out in a must-win situation.
Mm-hmm.
A team that was in full defense early. We got the goal, and they were all over second half, and we held. Awesome to do. Get out of that group. Let's go beat the Netherlands on Saturday and keep this thing rolling as long as we can.
Can't wait.
It's been a fun ride.
Mm-hmm. Let's enjoy it.
Let's enjoy it. All right, let's close this thing out. Jeff, let's talk some NFL. Are the Cowboys for real?
Hit me. They look like they might be for real. 8-3 is not a record that you just sweep under the rug. I mean, they are playing some They're playing some football. Sorry, I was looking at the Detroit score. They're playing some football.
Puke on themselves against Green Bay. They're sitting at 9-2.
Right.
In the game they absolutely should have won.
Absolutely. But I've said it once. I'll say it a million more times. I will believe the Cowboys when they win in the postseason.
I was about to say, are you, Jeffrey Yeager, buying the Dallas Cowboys? Is that what I'm hearing?
I am holding my current stock in the Cowboys, which is when they win in the postseason, I will believe the hype.
So let me ask you this: top 2 teams in the NFC right now?
Oh, I mean, Philly and San Francisco.
No.
Oh, come on.
San Francisco.
You got to be trolling.
Absolutely.
No, the Niners.
Are you kidding me?
Did you see
San Francisco is the real deal.
Did you
Their
see
defense is incredible. Jimmy G can facilitate.
Garbage.
Christian McCaffrey. Oh, bro, y'all are tripping. Okay. Y'all are absolutely.
We know you have a thing for mediocre quarterbacks. You got Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, and now Jimmy Garoppolo. What are you doing, Jeff?
The school of
mark my words. Mark my words, the 49ers are the real deal.
The Niners aren't scaring anybody. They played an elite Chiefs team and got 45 hung on that
And since then, they've won every game.
They beat Andy Dalton 13-0 on Sunday. It was like watching a USFL game.
Hey, I'm not saying they're just amazing, but I'm saying they win games and they're not to be trifled with in the NFC.
I think your top 2 NFC teams are in the same division. I think it's Philly and I think it's Dallas. And I think if Dak just stops turning the football over like he did against the Packers and plays just normal Dak football and not try to be a world beater and be too much, and as good as Tony Pollard's playing, that Cowboys defense can carry them the whole way. That Michael Parsons, number 11 draft pick in that draft, might be one of the biggest steals I've ever seen, because that guy's already a top 8 player in the NFL already. He's unbelievable. I don't know. I'm with you, Yeg. It's hard to buy stock in Dallas because they're going to go to the playoffs and they're going to roll over like they always do.
I will believe it when I see it. That
The
is how I
biggest-
feel about
that
Dallas.
that team looks so good. They beat the tar out of the Vikings last week. And then they whipped up on the Giants on Thanksgiving in that second half. It was another really impressive half by Dallas.
Look, I'll tell you this much. I think Dallas has shown resilience, which is something I don't see from the Cowboys very often. They had the Dak injury at the beginning of the season. They just kept fighting, lost to Green Bay on a heartbreaker and came back and played even more like hardcore football. So I think they're trending up. I think they're finally realizing, hopefully, we can't just get whatever we want because we're the entitled Cowboys. I also think the Vikings made a statement. They came back and won after
was
getting
cool,
cleaned. It was a great win from Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, it was.
Same thing with Philly. Philly losing. You see teams like that all the time where they have a great start and then they finally lose and they just fall apart to come back and win. Even though it was over the Colts, I think anytime you have a bounce back win, it's a good thing. And then they just cleaned house on the Packers. That game was a lot closer. The score was a lot closer than what that game actually was. Because if they don't let Christian Watson run across the middle of the field and take it 60 yards, they win by 3 scores or something like that.
It was a weird game, really weird game.
Yeah. So I think watch out for the Eagles, baby, fly.
I like Philly and they run the ball great, but if you're able to take that away from them and you make Hurts have to throw for 280 yards, 200 yards, I don't know if that. I think the Niners are a terrible matchup for Philadelphia. So I'll give you the Niners hype on that one. You play a good run-stopping defense, that they're a problem for Philadelphia.
Here, look,
They're
I'll
too
tell you
reliant
this.
on that run game.
Well, that's one of those things. It's like, hey, if you know what my strength is, then come and take it, type of thing. And so far, no one's doing it.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
And they've had a great year. I like Jalen Hurts.
I know who's not
100%.
doing it. That's Dallas. Dallas is, for as great as that defense is, they cannot stop the run.
No, they can't. The run
They
game.
can't. Here's the way I see the NFC. Jeff, you brought up the 49ers, and I don't hate that. I think they are a contender to come out of the NFC, but to say that they're above the Cowboys or even above the Vikings, I think is a stretch. The way I see it is you've got the Eagles, you got the Cowboys, you got the Niners, and the Vikings. I wouldn't be surprised if either one of those 4 teams is representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. And I don't think a whole lot separates one team from another in that group of 4. The Eagles have the best record, and so far they've looked like the best team, but I don't think they're. If they played Minnesota, I guess they'd be in Philly. So, it would probably be a 5-point spread, 6-point spread, Philly and Minnesota.
Yeah.
It's not like Philly's just head and shoulders better than the others. So I think it's pretty safe to say in my mind that there's a hat of 4 teams in the NFC. And then there's also this other team down in Florida, quarterbacked by the best player to ever play the game. He looks terrible, looks awful.
They suck.
He's still Tom Brady. And I'm going to be late on saying he's done. I'm going to be believing in Tom Brady too late. So I'm not ready to throw in the towel yet.
For the 15th year in a row, I am proclaiming
all I'll say
done.
All I'll say is who was the team that beat Dallas in Dallas and beat Green Bay in the playoffs last year to go to the NFC Championship?
49ers.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't they get a mud hole stomped
and
on?
Who was the quarterback for the Niners in both those games?
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Thank you.
One win is against the Cowboys, who haven't won a playoff game in 30 years. And the other is against Green Bay in a blizzard.
Hey, how good did everyone say the Cowboys were supposed to be? And then in the postseason. So, I don't know if y'all have heard, but history repeats itself.
I got one more question for y'all, and we'll wrap it up. Well, 2 more questions. One, is Mike White the best quarterback in the history of the NFL? The answer is yes.
No.
2, question 2, if you're a Bills fan, are you worried about Josh Allen?
Yes.
He has
little bit.
14
Wait,
turnovers.
because of his elbow injury, or because of his
No, just the
turnovers?
way he's playing is 14 turnovers. That's as many as Subway sandwich Russ Wilson.
Look, here's my thing: is
That
Brett Favre was the same way. Bunch of turnovers, bunch of passing yards.
is true.
I think Josh Allen is just a gung ho player. He's gonna have an interception, but he's also gonna turn around and go throw a touchdown.
He will win. He can win you a game. If I want a game winning drive, Josh Allen's in the mix for a guy I want out there. But he'll lose you a game on that drive real quick.
Look, here's my thing. You know what? I got a perfect point to make about this. Is Josh Allen, he's one of those guys. Would you like him to be a little more careful with the football? Yes. But if you guys remember when Reggie Bush was at USC, have you guys ever heard this story? Reggie Bush was at USC and he would always get the ball and run past his blockers, the linemen, on screenplays and stuff like that because he was so much faster. And a coach came to him and said, hey, you need to slow down and wait for your blockers. And Pete Carroll got in that assistant coach's face and was like, don't ever tell a fast player to slow down. I think that's the thing. If you go to Josh Allen and you say, hey, we need you to be more careful with the football, you're going to take away that opposite side of his confidence where he can just go out and huck it. Because you saw it. He may throw a bunch of picks, but then he throws you a 45-yarder on the dime to Stephon to set up that game-winning field goal.
I just think
against
the
Detroit.
Bills, I think a big problem, and I've said it all year long, the Bills, they're too reliant on Josh Allen because they cannot run the football.
Yep.
Josh Allen is their best running back.
Now that I would agree with you, but that's easily solved by going out and just getting a running back.
Well, not this year.
I mean, but you go draft some guy in the end of the first round this coming season. It's like,
Here's the thing. I think you hit the nail on the head, Cameron, because you can win with a guy like Brett Favre, Josh Allen, a guy that turns the ball over a lot, if you have somebody else to put the ball in their hands, right? If you're asking the guy to throw 40 times a game, you're probably not going to win with the guy because he's going to turn it over a couple. But if you have a running back that's going to eat up, 25, 28 carries between either one running back or maybe running back by committee, just a solid run game, then you're only asking this gunslinger quarterback to throw the ball 25 times. There's a good chance he can make it out of a game with 0, maybe 1 interception, and you can still win with that. Like, the good outweighs the bad if you're not asking him to put the ball in the air that much.
And look, I don't want to dunk on Josh Allen. He's a top 3 player in the NFL, top 3 quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah. But can you carry a team if you turn the ball over that much?
There was a lot of hype to the Bills for being the best team in the league this year, bar none, and they were in a battle with the Lions Thanksgiving. Should have lost that game.
Mhm.
The Lions just can't help themselves. And it started making me think, man, if I'm a Bills fan, I mean, they're going to be right around the mix for the AFC Championship, but I'm hitting the panic button a little. I'm maybe not hitting it, but I'm getting close to it because Josh Allen's turned the ball over a lot. The defense is not quite as good as everybody thought it would. And the Bills are sitting in the wild card spot right now. The Dolphins are leading the AFC East first place team right now. And that's a big difference in getting that 2 seed and that 5 seed.
Yep.
So, any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
Go USA.
Go USA. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to Mike White. Go ahead.
Fight on USC, baby.
Oh, all right.
Get out of here.
The Mike White Heisman Hall of Fame campaign continues Sunday against the Vikings and Kirk Cousins. Tune in. Thanks,
we'll
everybody,
see.
for listening.